Positive aspects of living with autism are a little difficult to quantify because if you're autistic, you've never been anything else, so it's hard to compare. So you're really basing anything you might say about this on what you've heard about being an NT is like, or what you feel you can do better than somebody else. I feel that some of what it's given me is beneficial in that I can be more logical about things than a lot of ordinary people can be. I can look at something much more dispassionately and get to a more logical explanation without being distracted by emotional or sociological overtones. It's also made me a lot more comfortable in my own skin because I am my own reference point. It's me that decides if there's anything wrong, and it's me that can control it. Which in turn means I don't need other people's company that much. I'm quite happy to do what I'm doing, whatever. If I feel I need somebody's company, I can go and find it, but unless I do, what the hell? My interest is in what I'm doing rather than whether I'm surrounded by other people. This does have a slight negative effect in terms of maintaining relationships has to become more of an effort because I don't have the innate need to contact people for the sake of contact. I might not speak to you for 10 years and then ring you up and ask you about a piece of software I know you're familiar with. But then in the autistic environment, that's perfectly normal and perfectly acceptable. Why would you ring somebody up for no reason?
Positive aspects of being autistic is you always have to have a routine. So it was always a case of like you always I always set my alarm for 7 o'clock. I get up downstairs, have my breakfast, upstairs, brush my teeth. Everything. I got ready for work. That's it's nice. It was always a good sort of positive thing that I'd never have any time for work. As soon as I finish work, go home, change. I go to the gym. Finish my gym session, have a shower, go home, have my tea, and then I just watch TV. So you're always sort of punctual. That's it. If you're going to meet somebody at 7 o'clock, I was always that's it. There's no shades of grey when you're kind of autistic. It's black or white. You either like something or you hate something. You're a bit of a niche market. You sort of know what you like. I like music, especially like old school punk and metal. I like TV movies, especially science fiction, horror. I like collecting autographs, and that's pretty much it.
I'm beginning to see more of the gifts of it with I do tend to think very deeply about things. I want to know the ins and outs of everything, and I think that's a kind of positive.
Individuals on the autism spectrum are as varied and as diverse as any section of the population. We're all different, and what works for one person on the spectrum might not necessarily work for everyone on the spectrum.
There are good points as well. I would say that I think I have a more interesting and creative take on some things than other people. I think that sometimes I'm more empathic than other people because I understand how much of a challenge things can be emotionally, and so I understand why someone might have a phobia or a fear or be uncomfortable about something, and I can be sensitive to that.
There certainly are many positive aspects to having autism. For example, many historical people are thought to have had autism, and they include Einstein, Isaac Newton, Jane Austen, Marie Curie, Beethoven and Mozart, amongst others. But even in the cases where there's no obvious talent in people, it's worth seeing what your brain is suited to, because there might well be a talent that you've not yet discovered, and there are many things to try. For example, in the areas of art, music, science, architecture, sculpture and so on. It's better to try things and to have something to do than to do nothing and get depressed. It's been shown among autistic people that special interests can and do often become jobs. It may be a case of finding out how that's possible. But sometimes support is needed for individuals to realise their full potential.
Well, the negative aspects of living with autism are very much the flip side of the coin of the positive aspects. As I started to mention about ongoing relationships with people need to be specifically pursued rather than coming naturally, because I have no actual need for the company of any particular person. So why would I talk to them unless I've got a reason? That unfortunately rolls out further in that people see that in me and then start to wonder whether they do have a relationship with me or not, because they've not heard from me for so long. But it does also mean that I have difficulty in interpreting why somebody will be interacting with me. Sometimes their presentation may be at variance with what they intended to convey, and I may find myself with insufficient information to come to a conclusion, or too much information to be able to analyse in the time available. Because far from what most people assert, autistics are not lacking in empathy. We struggle with far too much information and therefore just cannot process or come to the wrong conclusions. So it may be that I pick up that you're in a mood with me for some reason and you're not. You've just said something that seemed fairly flippant. I've not got the flippancy aspect of it. Or it's difficult to know when a girl's interested. Yeah, she's talking to you, yeah, she's not talking to you, but is it work or is it personal interest? All these things become very much more difficult if you're autistic, because all of these things are from a different planet and you have to learn how to do them. And unfortunately, NTs don't stick by the rules, so you learn one set of rules and then an NT goes and does something entirely different, so it doesn't work anymore. So it can be quite complex, and I think it's the complexity that causes the problems.
There are lots of good and bad points of having autism or being on the autistic spectrum. The bad points are that I don't understand when people are making jokes all the time. I don't necessarily understand if someone's taking the mickey out of me. I find it hard to understand what people are implying by their tone of voice sometimes, or if someone's sending me a text message, I don't know whether they've put an exclamation mark because they're joking or because they're cross, and so sometimes it's quite hard to understand the tone that things are sent in, and sometimes I don't understand people's body language and I might think that they're happy when they're upset. And in general, I find relationships quite a lot difficult because I'm very much within my own mind and thinking about my perspective on things, and so sometimes it's quite hard to appreciate where another person's coming from. My sensory issues are quite frustrating because I've got really good sense of hearing and sense of smell, and sometimes that can be really bad because say you're on a bus and people smell, it can like make me feel sick. And I think in a different way to other people, which sometimes means that I misunderstand people, and that can be a bit frustrating.
I find myself replaying virtually every contact with every person I've ever met, time after time after time after time, until I think I've wrung everything out of that communication I possibly can. And then I may revisit it sometime in the future. That's the kind of problems I find with being autistic.
The negative aspects about being autistic, it's you always find out that you're a little bit shy, a little bit lonely. You've always you've not got the gift of the gab, so it's always hard to talk to girls and stuff like that. You've always got a few friends, but you're not the talker in the group. You're the one that you end up in the pub with sat at the bar with a pint. I just let everybody else talk. I sort of chip in occasionally. Yeah. You don't like trying anything new. I mean, I can drive a car. I can't believe I sort of did that. But when I look back, it's like, when you push yourself, you sort of can do it. But you're always kind of scared of change, and you're always kind of, personally, you're always scared of like sort of trying something new and making a bit of a fool of yourself. But you don't like a lot of responsibility. I mean, I'm 50 years old and I still live at home with my mum. I mean. It's responsibility. You don't like responsibility, so I never really wanted like a wife and 2 kids, and it just blew. I just couldn't handle the responsibility, And again, once you get diagnosed, it's kind of everything sort of falls into place, and well.